There is a moment near the end of Clara Obscura Expedition 33 that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. After everything, after the Gommage, after the continent, after Gustav, after the Paintress herself falls, the game pulls back the curtain and shows you something you were never supposed to see. The most powerful being in the painted world, a deity with absolute control over life and death, a god who has been running the universe's cruelest lottery for decades, and she is sitting at the bottom of the monolith, weeping. This is Eileen Descendra. And once you understand why she's crying, you understand what Expedition 33 is actually about. It is not a story about stopping death. It is a story about what grief does to a person when that person has nowhere to put it, and the answer the game gives is one of the most honest things I've encountered in any medium. Grief, unchecked, becomes architecture. It builds things, and everything it builds carries the shape of the loss inside it. Let's go back to the beginning of the expedition further, to a boy named Verso Descendra who loved to paint. As a child, Verso created an entire world from his imagination, the city of Lumiere, the dreamlike spaces of the continent. He loved his creation so much that the canvas absorbed an imprint of his soul. Then Verso died in a fire, and his mother Eileen, faced with the constant gnawing absence of her son, made a decision that felt like the only one she could make. She climbed into the painting. If there was a world where some fraction of your child still existed, even at a trace of them, even at an echo, would that be preferable to a reality defined by their absence? Eileen's answer was immediate and total. She plunged into Verso's last canvas, became its god, its paintress, and made no plans to ever emerge. She would live alongside the last remnant of her son's soul. Whatever happened to her real body didn't matter. And then something happened that Eileen didn't plan for. Art cannot escape its artist. The canvas was a living object, and the moment Eileen entered it, it began to warp around her grief. This is the game's most devastating idea, and it's worth sitting with. Eileen had absolute power in the painted world. She could have made it anything. She could have built a paradise. Instead, the world she presided over became saturated with death, the Gommage, the doomsday clock, the bodies on the continent that couldn't decompose, the void that blocks out the stars. All of it traces back to a mother who was trying to hold on to something she'd lost. The Gommage was Eileen's attempt to slow the damage her husband Renoir was causing, granting death by degrees instead of all at once. An act of mercy that looked, from inside the painting, like systematic annihilation. The merciful thing became indistinguishable from the monstrous thing, because grief had distorted everything she touched. Her other creations reveal the same pattern. When Eileen tried to rebuild her lost family inside the canvas, she couldn't see past what she'd lost. Her painted version of her daughter Alicia maintained the scars and silence of the real world, because Eileen couldn't forgive her for Verso's death. Her memory of Renoir could only express love through violence. Her reconstruction of Verso himself was made unkillable, and desired death above all else. Eileen poured everything she had into these recreations, and every one of them bore the mark of her wound. This is what the game is saying. Grief, when it becomes the organizing principle of a life, doesn't preserve what was lost. It reproduces the loss, over and over, in every direction. And then there's Mail. Mail is outside the canvas, Alicia Descendra, Verso's sister, racked by guilt over his death. She followed her parents into the painting, was reborn inside it as a child of Lumiere with no memory of who she'd been. A fresh start. And yet, at the same age Alicia was when she lost her brother, Mail loses her brother too. The canvas reproduced Eileen's grief with perfect fidelity, a new life, a new world, the same loss. This is the cycle the game keeps returning to. Grief that turns inward doesn't end, it echoes, it finds new hosts, it repeats the wound in new configurations until someone, somewhere, decides not to carry it the same way. Here is what Eileen never understood, and here is where the game offers its most quietly devastating contrast. Earlier in the story, in the opening minutes before the expedition departs, there's a woman named Sophie walking toward the pier. She's 33 years old. The Gommage has just happened. She's walking toward her own erasure, and she says something to Gustave that stops the scene cold. Sometimes I feel sorry for her. Gustave is astonished. Who? The Paintress? She looks sad, Sophie says. Maybe she's a prisoner too, stuck in the same cycle with us. Sophie is about to die, and she's extending empathy toward the force that is killing her, not because she doesn't feel the weight of what's happening, but because she can see, somehow, that the Paintress is not a monster, she's a person, deformed by a loss she could never metabolize. Gustave says only you could choose empathy at a moment like this, and Sophie replies, it's one of the few choices I can make. Sophie dies. Eileen keeps painting, forward, and sealing yourself inside the last moment you had with them. Sophie understood it walking to her death. Eileen never understood it, even with all the time in the world. The few choices we can make, even at the end, even in loss, even when the monolith is already being painted, are the ones that face outward, toward the people still here, toward the world still moving, toward something other than the grief itself. The paintress wept because she had nowhere to go with what she felt. The question the game leaves you with is whether you do. If you want to join me on my journey and see more videos like this, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.